Wisdom of Solomon, Chapter 1. Love righteousness, ye that judge the earth. Think of the Lord in goodness and simplicity of heart, seek him. For he is found unto them that tempt him, but he appears unto them that disbelieve him. For thoughts separate from God, and when the power is tried, it reproveth the foolish. For wisdom shall not enter into a soul of wicked work, neither shall it dwell in a body guilty of sin. For the Holy Spirit of discipline shall flee from deceit, and shall be resurrected from unwise thoughts, and shall be reproved by the coming of unrighteousness. For the spirit of mankind is wisdom, and he shall not acquit a blasphemer from his lips. For God is a witness of his kidneys, and a true bishop of his heart, and a true bishop of his tongue. For the Spirit of the Lord hath filled the world, and that which hath come to know all things hath a voice. Wherefore, when he is unjustly charged, let no man err, neither shall the trial reprove him. For in councils there shall be an examination of ungodly words, but his hearing of the Lord shall come to reprove his transgressions. For all things are heard in jealousy, and murmurings are not hidden. Beware therefore of useless murmuring, and spare ye from slander, for a clandestine word shall not go, but a mouth that lies shall destroy the soul. Ye shall not be jealous of death in the error of your life, neither shall ye bear destruction in the works of your hands. For God hath not wrought death, neither rejoiceth at the destruction of the living. For he created all things into being, and the generations of the world are saving, and there is no medicine for destruction in them, nor a kingdom of hell on earth. For righteousness is immortal, and the wicked in their hands and in their words called him a friend, and led him, and commanded him, and made a covenant with him, that they were worthy of that portion. Chapter 2. For they have said to themselves, reckoning among themselves, Our life is not rightly few, and sorrowful is our life, and there is no healing in the last of a man, and he that hath broken down hath not been known. For we were made of our own accord, and after this we shall be as if we had not existed. For the breath is smoke in our eyes, and the word is a spark in the movement of our hearts. Wherefore the ashes shall be extinguished the body, and the Spirit shall be poured out as a hail of air. And our name shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall remember our works, and our life shall pass away like the traces of a cloud, and shall be rejoiced like mist, driven away by the rays of the sun, and weighed down by its heat. For our time is a shadow, and there is no reversal of our death, for it is sealed, and no man turns back. Come therefore, and let us enjoy the good things, and let us use creation as in youth greatly. Let us be filled with wine of luxury, and with myrrh, and let not the blossom of the spring lead us astray. Let us be crowned with the covering of the roads before they wither. Let none of us be unfortunate in our pride. Let us everywhere forsake the symbols of gladness, for this is our place, and this is the lot. Let us oppress the poor. Let us spare not a widow or an elder. Let us be ashamed of long-standing cities. But let the law of righteousness be our power, for the weak is reproved useless. Let us lie in wait for the righteous, for he is unmerciful to us, and opposes our works, and reproaches us for the sins of the law, and glorifies us for the sins of our discipline. He professes to have the knowledge of God, and calls himself a servant of the Lord. It became unto us to reprove our thoughts, which are heavy for us, and behold, for his life is unlike to others, and his ways are changed. We have counted him a counterfeit, and he abstains from our ways, as he blesseth the last of the righteous out of uncleanness, and haughtieth God the Father. Let us see if his words are true, and we will tempt the things that are to come to his conclusion. For if the righteous Son of God be the Son of God, he shall perceive him, and shall save him out of the hand of those who stand by him. With reproach and torment, let us put him to know his forbearance, and to test his forbearance. Let us condemn him to an ugly death, for his overseer shall be because of his words. They thought these things, and were deceived, for their wickedness blinded them. And they did not know the mysteries of God, nor did they hope for a reward of holiness, neither did they judge the old of unblemished souls. For God created man out of incorruption, and made him an image of his own unity. And the death of the devil hath entered into the world, and they that are of that portion tempt him. Chapter 3. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and their afflictions shall not be touched. They were glorified to die in the eyes of fools, and their going out was considered an injury. And our course is a ruin, but they are in peace. For even in the sight of men, if they be punished, their hope of immortality is full. And they that have been chastised a little shall be well benefited, for God hath tempted them, and hath found them worthy of himself. As gold in a crucible he tasted them, and as the fruit of a sacrifice he accepted them. And at the time of their oversight they shall shine, and they shall run like sparks in a reed. They shall judge the Gentiles, and shall keep the peoples, and the Lord shall reign over them forever. Those who trust in him shall understand the truth, and the faithful in love look upon him, for grace and mercy unto his elect. And the wicked, as they have reckoned, shall have a retribution, they that have neglected the righteous and the Lord, and have fallen away from the Lord. For wisdom and discipline are the wretched, and their hope is empty, and their labors are unbearable, and their works are useless. Their wives are foolish, and their children are wicked. Cursed is their birth. For blessed is the undefiled one that hath not known a bed in trespassing, hath yielded fruit in the bishopric of souls. And whosoever shall not work iniquity in his hand, neither remembering evil against the Lord, for unto him shall be given grace of faith, and the lot in the temple of the Lord more rejoicing. For of good pains the fruit of good pains is good, and the root of understanding is unfailing. And the children of adulterers shall be unfinished, and the seed of the lawless bed shall perish. For if they be long-lived, they shall not be reckoned with their old age, and if they die sharply, they shall have no hope, nor a fairy tale in the day of diagnosis. For the ends of the unrighteous are hard for the generations. Chapter 4. Childlessness with virtue is immortality, for it is in remembrance of her, for it is also known by God and by men. And when they are present, they imitate her, and desire to depart, and to wear a crown forever. She marcheth forth the struggle of undefiled labors, conquering them. And a multitude of the wicked shall be of no use, neither shall he give a root in the depths, nor a secure foundation of false cuttings. For if it be frozen in branches for a time, it shall be shaken by the wind, and it shall be uprooted by the wind. Branches shall be enclosed unfinished, and their fruit useless, useless to eat, and unscrupulous to eat. For children born of lawless sleeps are witnesses of wickedness against their parents in their trial. But if he be righteous, he shall be at rest. For old age is not honorable, neither is the number of years, nor the number of years, and the city of men is prudence, and old age is an unblemished life. Being pleasing to God, he was loved, and living among sinners, he was taken away. Let not wickedness change his understanding, or deceit deceive his soul. For the evil of wickedness tarnisheth good things, and the interference of lust takes advantage of the evil mind. Being perfected in a little while, he fulfilled long times. For his soul was pleasing to the Lord, therefore he hastened out of wickedness. But the people, seeing and understanding not, did not think of such things. For grace and mercy are among his elect, and an overseer among his saints. And the righteous condemneth those who live ungodly, and that hasty youth is accomplished for many years of old unrighteousness. For they shall behold the last of a wise man, and shall not understand what he had counseled concerning him, and in what manner the Lord had secured him. They shall see and despise them, but the Lord shall deceive them. And they shall be after this a dishonorable corpse, and a reproach among the dead forever, for he shall bring them speechless prone, and shake them from the foundations. And to the end they shall be saved, and shall be in sorrow, and their memory shall perish. Cowards shall come in contemplating their sins, and he shall reprove them against their transgressions. Chapter 5. Then shall the righteous stand with great boldness before them that afflict him, and that break his pains. When they see, they shall be troubled with fear, and shall be astonished at the paradox of salvation. They say unto themselves that they repent, and because of distress of spirit they shall groan and cry. This is what we have ever had in laughter, and in the parable of reproach. We fools have counted his life fury, and his last dishonorable. How is his lot counted among the children of God, and among the saints? Therefore we have gone astray from the way of truth, and the light of righteousness has not shone upon us, and the sun has not risen for us. We have been filled with iniquity and destruction, and have persecuted wilderness, which are inaccessible, but we have not known the way of the Lord. What has pride profited us, and what riches with haughtiness are brought to us? All these things passed away as a shadow and as a paranormal angel, as a temple passeth through the floating water, through which there is no trace to find, nor a path of it in the waves. Or as a bird that flies in the air, there is no evidence of his course, but a plague scourged with Tarsus, a hollow spirit, and torn with the life of a soar with moving wings, was persecuted, and after that no point of entry was found in it. Or, as an arrow cast for a purpose, the air was cut straight to himself, as if he were ignorant of his way. So also, we, being born, have diminished, and have not a sign of virtue to show, but in our wickedness we have been squandered. For the hope of the wicked, as a dew carried by the wind, and as a dew driven away by a whirlwind, thin, and as smoke by the wind, it was poured out, and as a mention of the catalyst of one day. But the righteous live forever, and their reward is in the Lord, and their care is from the Most High. Therefore shall they receive the kingdom of dignity, and the diadem of beauty, out of the hand of the Lord, for he shall cover them with his right hand, and with his arm he shall protect them. He shall take up all his zeal for armor, and shall arm the creation for the defense of enemies. He shall put on a breastplate righteousness, and shall bear a crown judgment without hypocrisy. An irresistible shield of holiness shall be taken, and he sharpens his fierce wrath unto sword, and the world shall fight with him against the insane. Swift fireballs of lightning shall go, and as if by a circle of the clouds they shall be cast for purpose. And they shall be full of stone throwing anger, and shall be filled with hail, and indignation with the water of the sea against them, but the rivers shall be overflowing. A spirit of power shall resist them, and as a scoundrel shall overthrow them, and desolate all iniquity of the earth, and wickedness shall turn the thrones of oppressors. Chapter 6. Hear therefore kings, and understand, learn judges of the ends of the earth. Hear ye that hold multitudes, and howl against multitudes of nations. For the Lord has given you restraint, and the dynasty of the Most High, who shall examine your works and counsels. For being a servant of his kingdom, ye have not judged rightly, nor have ye kept the law, neither ye have walked according to the counsel of God. Horribly and swiftly shall he believe unto you, that there is a sudden judgment among them that excel. For he that least is forgiven is of mercy, but mighty shall be strong. For the Lord of all is not a person subordinate, neither shall he be ashamed of the greatness, for he hath made small and great, and likewise provides for all. And to the mighty there is a search. Therefore my words are unto you, O tyrants, that ye may learn wisdom, and fall not away. For they that keep the holy things holy shall be sanctified, and they that have learned them shall find an answer. Desire, therefore, my words, desire me, and be chastened. Wisdom is bright and unfading, and is easily seen by them that love it, and is found by them that seek it. It reaches those that desire to be foreknown. He that riseth up unto her shall not labor a judge, for he shall find his gates. For he that remembereth her mind is perfection, and he that keeps watch unto her shall be promptly careless. For she goes about seeking her worthy, and in the paths she imagines them well, and in every drink she meets them. For the beginning of this is the most true desire for education, and the love of education. And love is the keeping of her laws, and the heedfulness of the laws, the assurance of incorruptibility. And incorruptibility is near to God's. Therefore the desire of wisdom ascendeth unto the kingdom. If, therefore, ye be bound upon thrones and scepters, tyrants of nations, honor wisdom, that ye may reign forever. But what is wisdom, and how it was done? I will proclaim, and I will not conceal mysteries from you, but from the beginning of birth I will make it known, and I will not pass by the truth. Nor will I accompany him with envy, for he shall not partake of wisdom. And a multitude of wise men, the salvation of the world, and the wise king, the stability of the people, that ye may be chastised by my words, and ye shall benefit. Chapter 7. I am also a mortal man, equal to all men, and a native descendant of Adam and Eve, and a mother who was embellished with flesh. For a 10-month period a cold and the blood of the seed of a man, and of pleasure that sleepeth come. And I, when it was done, broke the common air, and fell upon the like-minded earth, the first voice like all weeping. I was brought up and cared for in swaddling clothes. For no other kings had the beginning of birth, and one entrance into life is one of all, and an exit is equal. Wherefore I have pleaded, and wisdom has been given unto me, I have called, and a spirit of wisdom hath come unto me. I have preferred her to scepters and thrones, and I have not brought riches in comparison with her. Nor have I likened unto her a priceless stone, for all the gold in her sight is a little sand, and as clay shall be counted as silver against her. For health and beauty I loved her, and foresaw her instead of light, for the light of her was sleepless. And all good things came to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hands. And I rejoiced over them all, for wisdom is the ruler of them, and that it is the birth of them. And I have learned abundantly, and I impart her riches, I do not conceal it. For unfailing is a treasure of men, whom they possessed sent friendship to God because of the gifts that were set up by education. And God will give me to say according to opinion, and to remember worthily of the facts, that he is also the guide of wisdom, and the corrector of the wise. For in his hand are we, and our words, and all wisdom, and science of works. For he hath given me the knowledge of beings, unfalsely knowing the constitution of the world, and the action of the elements, the beginning and the end, and the middle of times, the changes of times, and the changes of times, the circles and the positions of the stars, the natures of animals, and the wrath of beasts, and the spirits of violence, and the thoughts of men, the differences of plants, and the powers of plants. For the craftsman of all things has taught in secret and manifestly, for there is in her a noetic spirit, holy, single-begotten, multilateral, delicate, agile, undefiled, clear, insignificant, loving-kind, sharp, unhindered, beneficial, philanthropic, certain, secure, carefree, all-powerful bishop, and through all things there is room for spirits, noetic, pure, and most delicate. For wisdom is more movable than every movement, but it endures, and is sufficient for all because of purity. For it is the vapor of the power of God, and the result of the glory of the Almighty, sincere, therefore no one falls into it. For it is a reflection of eternal light, and an unblemished mirror of the power of God, and an image of his goodness. But one who is able to do all things, and abides in her, maketh all things, and from generation to generation, into holy souls, maketh friends of God and prophets. For God loves no man, except him who dwelleth with wisdom. For she is more noble than the sun, and is above all the stars the position of light, compared with the light. For this is succeeded by a night of wisdom, but wickedness prevaileth not. Chapter 8. And he extendeth from the end to the end, and administereth all things well. This I have kissed and sought from my youth, and have sought a bride to be brought to myself, and I have become a lover of her beauty. She glorifies nobility, having the cohabitation of God, and the Lord of all loved her. For he is a mystic of the science of God, and a heretic of his works. But if he be rich, he is a desirable possession in life. What wisdom is richer than he that doeth all things? But if wisdom worketh any man of her beings, he is rather a craftsman. And if any man loveth righteousness, the pains thereof are virtues, prudence, and prudence. He teacheth righteousness and manliness, which is more useful than men in life. And if any man desires much experience, he knows the ancients and the things to come. He conceives the turns of words, and the solutions of riddles, signs and wonders, and the outcomes of times and years. Therefore I judged her to be brought to cohabitation, knowing that she would be a counselor to me of good things, and an admonition to cares and sorrow. For her sake, the young man is glory in the multitudes, and honor from the elders. I will be found in judgment, and I will be amazed in the sight of oppressors. They wait for me silently, and take heed when I am hearing, and when they speak, they will put more hands upon their mouths. Out for her sake of immortality, and everlasting remembrance of them that are with me, I will perish. I will rule over peoples, and nations shall be subject to me. Fearing me, having heard terrible tyrants, I appear good in multitude, and brave in war. I will enter into my house, and I will rest with her, for her fellowship has no bitterness, nor sorrow in her cohabitation, but rejoicing and joy. Thinking these things in myself, and seeing in my heart that immortality is in the kinship of wisdom, and in her friendship good delight, and in the pains of her hands there is unfailing riches, and in the consolation of her speech, her wisdom, and good in the communion of her words, seeking that I may take her to myself. And I was all of a good soul, and of a good soul, and rather good that I came into an undefiled body. And knowing that I would not be self-controlled, but God also knew this, but it was wisdom to know whose grace had come to the Lord, and I prayed to him, and said with all my heart. Chapter 9. O God of fathers, and Lord of mercy, who hast done all things in thy word, and by thy wisdom thou hast made man to dominate the creatures which are made of thee. And he shall govern the world in holiness, and in righteousness of soul he shall judge judgment. Give me the wisdom of thy thrones, and reject me not of thy children. For I am thy servant, and the son of thy child, a weak man, and of a short time, and of lesser understanding, in the understanding of judgment and laws. For if any man be perfect among the sons of men of wisdom which is from thee, he shall be reckoned with nothing. Thou hast foretold me to be king of thy people, and judge of thy sons and daughters. Thou hast said to build a temple in thy holy mountain, and in thy city of encampment, an altar imitating the holy tabernacle, which thou hast prepared from the beginning. And wisdom is with thee, the peculiarity of thy works, and presenteth when thou hast made the world, and hast seen what is pleasing in thy eyes, and what is immediately in thy commandments. Send her out of the holy heavens, and send her out of thy throne of glory, that she may labor with me, and that I may know what is pleasing to thee. For she hath seen all things, and shall understand, and guide me in my deeds wisely, and shall keep me in her glory. And my works shall be accepted, and I will discern thy people righteously, and I will be worthy of my Father's thrones. For who man shall know the counsel of God, or who shall remember what the Lord wills? For the thoughts of mortals are cowardly, and precarious are our thoughts. For a corruptible body waggeth down the soul, and the earthly vessel aboundeth with a multitude of minds. And as soon as we conceive the things that are on the earth, and the things that are in the hands, we find them with pain, but the things which are in heaven they have searched out. But who knoweth thy counsel, but thou hast not given wisdom, and sent forth thy Holy Spirit from on high? And thus were the ways of them on the earth made straight, and men were taught thy pleasures, and were saved by wisdom. Chapter 10. She preserved the first created Father of the world alone, who was created, and redeemed him from his own trespass. And he gave him power to hold on to all things. And when he departed from her, he was unrighteous in his wrath, and slaughtered his brethren. Wherefore the flooded earth hath again saved wisdom by a lowly wood that governed the righteous. She also, in the unity of the wickedness of the nations that were confused, knew the righteous, and kept him blameless to God, and kept him strong over the womb of a child. She delivered the righteousness of the wicked that fled, fleeing down the fire of Pentapolis, which, yet a witness of wickedness, smoking, sat barren, and unfinished in the fruitful hours, the plants of an unbelieving soul, a monument, a steady pillar of salt. For having passed wisdom, they not only failed to know the good things, but also to foolishness. They left a memorial in their lives, that in which they had erred, they might not be able to err or err. And wisdom delivered them from pains to them that healed her. This fugitive from the wrath of a righteous brother led him into righteous ways, showed him the kingdom of God, and gave him the knowledge of the saints, prospered him in labor, and multiplied his pains. Being in covetousness, he stood by him and enriched him. He kept him from enemies, and from those who lay in ambush, and secured him, and rewarded him with a mighty fight, that he might know that godliness is all stronger. She, having done righteousness, did not forsake him, but delivered him out of sin. He went down with him into a pit, and in bonds he did not leave him, until he had brought him the scepter of the kingdom, and the power of those who tyrannize him, and he showed falsehoods to those who reproached him, and gave him eternal glory. She delivered a holy people, and an unblemished seed, out of a nation that afflicted them. He entered into the soul of the servant of the Lord, and endured terrible kings in wonders and signs. He repaid the saints the reward of their labors, and led them in a wondrous way, and became a shelter for them by day, and a flame of stars by night. He brought them through a rough sea, and led them through much water. And he overwhelmed their enemies, and boiled them up out of the depths of the abyss. Wherefore the righteous have slain the wicked, and have praised the Lord, thy holy name, and have anointed thy champion's hand with one accord. For wisdom hath opened the mouth of the deaf, and hath set the tongue of babes. Chapter 11. He brought their works to fruition in the hand of a holy prophet. They drove through an uninhabited wilderness, and in the inaccessible places they set up tents. They resisted their enemies, and defended their enemies. They were thirsty, and called upon thee, and water was given unto them of a rock, and a thirst remedy of a hard stone. For wherefore their enemies were punished, they were well benefited by them, being astonished. Instead of a fountain of an everlasting river, the blood of him troubled with sorrow. To reprove an infanticidal decree, thou hast given them abundant water unexpectedly. Thou hast shewed through the thirst of that time, how thou hast put the opposers to hell. For when they were tempted, and were chastised with mercy, they knew how they were being judged ungodly with wrath. For thou hast tested them as a father of admonitioners, but as a swift king thou hast examined them. And when they were absent and present, they likewise reaped. For they were doubly grieved and sighed with the remembrance of the past. For when they heard that they had been benefited by their own hells, they felt the Lord's. For whom in the old exposition they rebuked, mocking at the end of the results, they marveled at not the like of the righteous, thirst for the righteous. And instead of thoughts of their unwise unrighteousness, in which they were deceived, they worshipped horses, creepers, and lowly knots, and sent them a multitude of horses, animals, for vengeance, that they may know that whosoever sinneth by these things is punished. For thy almighty hand is not able, and having created the world out of unformed matter, to send upon them a multitude of bears, or insolent lions, or the newborn ones full of anger, unknown prey, that is, blowing a fire breath, or a filth, smoldering with smoke, or afflicted with sparkling eyes, shining, whom not only the injury could bring them together, but also the countenance, which frightened them, to perish. And without these things they could have fallen in one spirit, having been persecuted by the judgment, and having been swayed by the spirit of thy power, but having commanded all things in measure, and number, and in weight. For that which is great shall be with thee always, and who shall stand by thy arm? For as a dew of lust the whole world is against thee, and as a dew of dew that hath descended upon the earth, and thou shalt have mercy on all. For thou shalt be able to do all things, and strayeth away the sins of men unto repentance. For thou lovest all things, and abhors nothing that thou hast made, neither if thou hast made anything. But how did he live, if anything, if thou didst not will, or that which was not called by thee was preserved? But spare all, for thou art a loving-hearted master. Chapter 12. For thy incorruptible spirit is in all things. Wherefore reprovest them that stray, little by little, and admonish them in them that sin in remembrance, that they may deliver from wickedness, and believe in thee, O Lord. For, and the old inhabitants of thy holy land, hating the works of pharmacies, and the ordinances of unholy rites against the enemy, and the merciless and merciless murder of children, the flesh of men, and the blood of the midst of the initiatory troop. And thou hast chosen to destroy the parents of helpless souls by the hands of our fathers, that the most precious land of all thee may receive a worthy colony of the children of God. But I have repented of these also, as men, and hast sent forth forerunners of thy camp, that thou mayest destroy them against the rock, that are not unable to give ungodly righteous subjects in line, or terrible beasts, or by word of a word, to slaughter them. And judging by the rock, they give a place of repentance, not knowing that their birth is evil and their wickedness is innate, and that their thinking shall not change forever. For the seed was cursed from the beginning, nor did he reverently give permission to anyone against whom they sinned. For who saith what thou hast done? Who shall resist thy judgment? But who shall bring thee against the Gentiles that are lost, which thou hast done, or who in thy condition shall avenge unrighteous men? For neither is there any God but thee that careth over all things, that thou mayest show that thou hast not judged unjustly, Neither a king nor a tyrant shall be able to swoop upon thee for which thou hast sinned, but righteous, who justly governs all things, he that ought not to be punished, condemn a stranger, the ruler of thy power. For thy power of righteousness is the beginning, and that which dominates thee over all makes thee spare thee. For it is possible to prove unbelieving in power perfection, and in things thou hast reproved audacity. But thou, O Lord, judge with leniency, and with much pity judge us, for thou shalt be with thee when thou wilt be able to do so. And thou hast taught thy people by such works, that the righteous ought to be lovers of mankind, and hast made thy sons hope, for thou hast repented of sins. For if I punish the enemies of thy children, and those who are bound to death, with such heed and with such care, give them a time and a place whereby they shall deliver wickedness. With how much accuracy hast thou judged thy sons, to whom thou hast sworn oaths and covenants with good promises. Therefore chastising our enemies with multitude scourges, that we may take care of thy goodness when we judge, but when we are judged we expect mercy. Wherefore also thou didst torment abominations unjustly to those who lived in foolishness. For gods have been deceived farther than the ways of error, having understood the things of the living of the shameful dishonorable infants, lying to the judgment of fools. Wherefore, as a fool of thoughtless men, thou hast sent judgment into mockery. But the games of rebuke, not admonished, shall tempt the judgment worthy of God. For when they were afflicted, they were indignant at these things, whom they saw as gods in them, and when they saw him whom they formerly denied to know God, they knew the truth. Therefore the end of the condemnation came upon them. Chapter 13. For all men are vain by nature, who are ignorant of God, and have not been able to know the creature, nor have they become aware of the work, nor of the things that are seen. But either fire, or spirit, or swift air, or circle of stars, or violent water, or light of heaven, the rulers of the world have called gods. Whosoever, if the gods were pleased with these things, let them know how much the master of these things is better, for the ruler of beauty hath created them. But if they were astonished at strength and energy, let them understand of them, how much mightier he that made them is. For according to the size and beauty of the creatures, according to their generator is considered. But yet there is little reproach about these things, and they are supposedly deceived, seeking God, and desiring to find. For when they turn back in his works, they search, and are convinced by the sight that the things that are seen are good. And again they are not excusable. For if they were so strong to know that they could contemplate the Lord of them forever, how quickly could they not find it? And wretched and in the dead are their hopes, which they have called gods, the works of men's hands, gold and silver, art and ornaments, and the remains of animals, or a stone, a useless hand, the work of old. And if any man also cut out a movable plant, he hath sheared all its bark with knowledge, and has made a fine craft, and has made a useful vessel for the service of life. And the waste of the work of preparing food was filled, and the waste of them was a good piece of wood, a scythe, and nostrils, which he took with care for his idleness, and impressed with the experience of prudence, he made it an image of a man. A certain lowly animal hath likened him unto a miltose, and he has grown away his year, and every stain which he hath stained in it. And when he had made him a worthy house, he laid it in a wall, securing it with iron. Therefore, that he might not fall, he foresaw him, knowing that he was unable to help himself, for he was an image, and had need of help. And when he prays concerning his estates, and his marriages, and his children, he is not ashamed to speak of the inanimate, and he invokes the sick of health. But the dead man is worthy of life, and the most infinite begs for assistance, but for a journey neither can be used, and for the attainment of knowledge, and of labor, and of the hands of success, the most inactive hydration in the hands is required. Chapter 14. A certain man who is sent again with a sail, and is about to sail wildly, and the waves of the ship that carries it, he cries out with a weaker wood. For he had an appetite for knowledge, and a craftsman made wisdom. But thy Father governeth providence, for thou hast given both a way in the sea, and a safe way in the waves. Show that thou art able to save from all things, that even if no man is without art, he may survive. But thou shalt not slow the works of thy wisdom. Therefore men also believe in the least wood, and they have passed through the storm by a plain. and from the beginning of the proud giants, the hope of the world, taking refuge on a raft, has left forever the seed of the birth of thy hand which is governed. For blessed is the wood by which righteousness is done, and the handmaid was cursed, and he that made it, because he that worketh the corruptible thing was called a god. For in the same way is the hateful God, and the wicked, and his wickedness. For what is done with the doer shall be punished. Wherefore also in the idols of the Gentiles shall be an overseer. For in the creation of God they have become an abomination, and the souls of men into stumbling blocks, and into the snare of many fools. For the beginning of fornication is the conception of idols, and the corruption of their life is found. For he was neither from the beginning, nor forever. For vainglory of men entered into the world, and therefore their end was conceived soon. For the father of the child who was quickly taken away from the world mourned for a long time, and having made an image of the man who was once dead, he now honored as a god, and delivered to the subordinates mysteries and ceremonies. Then in time, the ungodly custom was preserved as a law, and by the commandments of tyrants he worshipped the sculptures, which, being not able to honor men, because of the distant dwelling of the distant appearance, they made a conspicuous image of the honored king, that they might flatter him by haste as they were present. And to the exhortation of religion, and to those who were ignorant, the craftsman's honor exhorted him. For he that supposedly possessed, desiring to please, hastened the likeness of art to the best. And the multitude, being attracted by the joy of work, now considered the man who had just been honored a reverence, and this came to pass unto life. For men who had slaved calamity or tyranny put stones and woods upon the name of the uncommunicated name. For it was not enough to be deceived about the knowledge of God, but also, living in great ignorance, they proclaimed so much bad peace. For either child slayers, ceremonies, or secret sacraments, or furious institutions, bringing away comrades. Neither pure lives nor marriages are yet kept by another, but another either revoketh the slaughterhouse or adulterates pain. And all things hath blood, and murder, theft and deceit, corruption, unbelief, turmoil, perjury, noise of good grace, amnesty of souls, defilement of birth, change of marriages, disorder, adultery, and lasciviousness. For the religion of the nameless idols is the beginning of all evil, and the cause and the end. For either they rejoice in a month, or prophesy falsehood, or live unjustly, or swear quickly. For they who believe in idols that swear wrongly do not accept to be wronged, and both of them shall perish the righteous, because they thought wrongly of God. Beware of idols, and unjustly swore by deceitful deceit, despising holiness. For it is not the power of them that are sworn in, but the judgment of sinners that are always the transgression of the unrighteous. Chapter 15. But thou art our God, righteous and true, long-suffering, and merciful to administer all things. For if we sin unto thee, we have known thy power, but we will not sin, knowing that we reckon unto thee. For all righteousness shall behold thee, and thy dominion may know the root of immortality. For neither hath deceived us men, with the mind of ill workness, nor with the pain, which is unfruitful, of a kind that is stained with the color of the unvarnished, whose sight is foolish to appetite, and longs for a dead image, lovers of evil, and worthy of such hopes, both those who do, and those who desire, and those who respect. For pottery maketh a hard earth of labor for the service of each one, but out of the same clay he has refashioned the servants of clean works, and the vessels of all these things, and the use of each one is the judge. And a vain god of his own accord maketh a clay, which was soon made out of the earth, and after a little while goes forth, from whence the debt required of the soul was taken. But he is anxious not that he is going to do, nor that he hath a short life, but that he is distrusted to goldsmiths and silversmiths, and he imitates coppersmiths, and is led by glory that he makes counterfeits. His heart is a sword, and his hope is weaker than earth, and his life is more dishonorable than clay. For he was ignorant of him that made him, and that inspired him to work a soul, and to breathe in him a life-giving spirit. But they considered our life to be a game, and our life a feast, for it should be said that it should be profitable, even if it were out of evil. For this man saw above all men that he sinned against the fragile vessels and sculptures of the creators of earth, and all the most foolish and talented for the soul of an infant, the enemies of thy people, oppressed him. For all the idols of the Gentiles also counted themselves gods, neither the use of eyes for sight, nor the eyes for the whole of the air, nor ears to hear, nor the fingers of the hands to feel, and their feet slow to ascend. For man made them, and borrowed the Spirit, and created them. For no man like him is able to create God. And a mortal who is dead worketh with unequal hands, for he is the best of his reverences, which he himself did not live, and never did. And the beasts which are enemies respect foolishness, for they are worse than the others. Nor did he desire us as he desired, as in living things, that he had a good sight, but he fled from both the praise of God and his blessing. Chapter 16. Wherefore they were punished worthily by their likes, and by a multitude of nostrils they were tormented. Wherefore thou hast done good to thy people in hell, for the lust of appetite thou hast prepared a wreath for food. That those who desire food for the abomination of those who have been sent away, and for the necessary appetite, are turned away, but they are a little destitute, and have a strange taste. For it was necessary for them to come to poverty, but only to show how their enemies were tormented. For when the wrath of wild beasts hath come upon them, and the bites of the sneezes were corrupted by serpents, thy wrath did not endure unto the end. And they were troubled for a little while in admonition, having a symbol of salvation in remembrance of thy commandment. For he that hath returned, not for that which is supposed to be saved, but for thee, the Saviour of all. And by this thou hast persuaded our enemies, that thou art the one that is saved from all evil. For those who slew the bites of locusts and mussels, and no cure was found for their souls, for they were worthy to be punished by such. And thy sons, not even of the dragon-throwing dragons, have overcome with their teeth. For thy mercy hath overcome, and hath healed them. For in remembrance of thy scholars they were centered, and sharply preserved, that they might not fall into deep forgetfulness, and be undistracted by thy beneficence. For neither herb nor malaise hath healed them, but thy word, O Lord, which healeth all men. For thou hast authority over life and death, and thou hast descended into the gates of hell, and hast brought them up. And a man killeth by his wickedness. But when he goes forth, the spirit does not turn back, nor dissolve the soul that has been received. But it is impossible for thy hand to flee. For when they deny thee to know thee, they are ungodly by the strength of thy arm, and have been scourged with strange wounds, and with hail, and with rain, being persecuted with necessity, and consumed with fire. For the most strange thing, in the water that quenches all things, the fire has acted more than the fire, for the world is righteous. For at times there was a flame, that it should not set ablaze the beasts that were sent to the wicked, but when they saw that they were coming to the judgment of God. And sometimes, even in the midst of water there burneth power more than fire, that it may destroy the grains of an unrighteous land. As a flower of angels, thou hast breaded thy people with food, and hast given them all pleasure without effort, and full of every harmony. For thy hypostasis to thy children shewed sweetness, but the lust of him that was offered, that he served, unto him that was willing, was taken away. And the snow and the crystal endured the fire, and it was not melted, that they might know that the fruits of the enemies were destroyed by burning fire in the hail, and perverted in the winds. And this again, that the righteous might be nourished, and chosen by his own power. For the creation that serveth thine serveth be increased to hell against the unrighteous, and is done good for them that trust in thee. Wherefore also then, thou shalt take advantage of thy all-nourishing gift in all things, serve the will of them that pray, that thy children may know, whom thou hast loved, Lord, that it is not the generations of fruit that nourish man, but thy word preserves them that believe in thee. For that which was not corrupted by fire, but was warmed by a short ray of the sun, that it is known that the sun must come at thy thanksgiving, and light may shine unto thee at sunrise. For the hope of the unthankful, like winter dew, shall settle down, and shall be dried as useless water. Chapter 17. For thy judgments are great, and therefore unspeakable souls have been deceived. For when they were bound to oppress a holy nation, lawless prisoners of darkness, and long slain by night, shut up in the upper floors, fugitives of eternal providence. For when they think of secret sins, they are scattered, being terribly dazzled, and are astonished with indignation. For neither did he that possessed them keep them fearless, and when they were disturbed, they cut them down, and specters of unrewarded gloomy faces appeared. And no fire prevailed to illuminate, nor did the shining flames of the stars shine upon that scorching night. And there appeared to them only an automatic fire full of fear, and when they were disgusted by that unseen appearance, they led the things that were seen worse. And there was a mockery of magic, and of the arrogance of prudence, a rebuke rebuked. For they that promise to enjoy signs and troubles of a sick soul, these are smiling with reverence. For if he had not frightened them in trouble, with the passages of the nose, and the hissing of creepers, they would be terrified of them, and of the air that flees from nowhere, refusing to see the air that flees from nothing. For a cowardly witness to his own wickedness, condemned forever, he accepted the evils continually with his conscience. For there is no fear, except the betrayal of the aids of thought. And from within, when the expectation of the sufferers is greater than the ignorance of the cause that gives the affliction. And they did indeed sleep in the night, and out of the weak hell of hell, they fell asleep in the same sleep. The monsters were swarmed with ghosts, but the things of the soul were paralyzed with betrayal. For suddenly an unexpected fear was poured out upon them. Be it so, therefore, that whosoever was there fallen down was guarded in the iron barracks, shut up. For if any man were a farmer, or a shepherd, or a laborer of the laborers in the wilderness, having taken away the unscrupulous need, for they were all bound to untie darkness. And if the Spirit whispers, or about the undoubted branches of the birds, the sound of a mellow, or the sound of water going by life, or the knock of the falling stones, either the way of the beasts leaping unseen, or the voice of the most relentless beasts, or the sound reflected out of the hollow of the mountains, paralyzed them that frightened. For the whole world was brightly illuminated with light, and did work without hindrance, and they alone were heavy with the image of the future, and darkness succeeded them, but they were heavier darkness. Chapter 18. And to thy saints there was a greater light, whose voice they heard, but did not see that they also were blessed. And for they do no harm when they are prejudiced, they give thanks, and they pray for the sake of contention. A flower that burneth a pillar of fire, a guide of an unknown journey, and the sun that is harmless to a worthy foreign country. For they are worthy to be deprived of light, and to be imprisoned in darkness, they that have kept thy sons, for whom the incorruptible law was destined to be given light forever. And when they had counseled them to kill the things of the saints as infants, and one child who was sent away, and who was saved, they reproved that they had a multitude of children, and with one accord they had lost in the great water. That night was foretold to our fathers, that they might surely know them whom they believed by oaths, and they might rejoice. Thou hast received salvation from thy people, but destruction of righteous enemies, for whom I will punish the adversaries. By this I have called us, and glorified us. For the holy children sacrificed good things in secret, and the law of divinity was in concord with the holy fathers, who were already expecting praises, to partake of the holy fathers, both good and dangerous. And the roar of the enemies resounded, and the voice of mourning children was greatly diminished. And likewise a righteous servant with a master is punished, and a citizen is king, suffering the same things. And with one accord they all had dead in one name of death, innumerable, for the living were not capable of burying them, for their most honest generation was corrupted. For all that they have been unbelieving because of the apothecaries, have confessed that they are the people of the Son of God. For there is silence in all things, and night in the midst of the night. Thy almighty word from heaven out of the thrones of kingdoms, a swift warrior in the midst of destruction, a sword of salt, a sharp sword bearing thy unfeigned command. And in them he fulfilled all things of death, and of heaven he slept but fell on earth. Then immediately the imaginations of terrible dreams stirred them up, and fears arose unexpectedly. And another half mortal, for whom a nation was a cause, appeared. For the dreamers troubled them, and foretold them this, that they should not be ignorant of what they suffer evil and perish. And the experience of death of the righteous also touched, and there was a disturbance in the wilderness. But the wrath did not remain long. For when a man of blame hastened, he forfeited the weapon of the same function, prayer and incense, and brought an atonement, and resisted the anger, and put an end to the calamity, showing that he is thy healer. And he conquered the whole, not by the power of the body, not by the action of arms, but by reason of the one that punished. He subdued the oaths of the fathers, and the covenants of the fathers. For a multitude of fallen dead among themselves, he stopped the wrath and crossed the way to the living. For the whole world was on the feet of clothing, and the glory of the fathers on the 14th line of stones of relief, and thy majesty on the diadem of his head. These things the destroyer said, and he was afraid, for the experience of wrath alone was sufficient. Chapter 19. And to the wicked ungodly, unmerciful to the end, wrath arose before them, and the things to come. For they, having permitted him to be repressed, and having sent them forth with haste, they shall drive away those who are repentant. For while still having mourning in their hands, and bowing to the graves of the dead, they stirred up thoughts of foolishness, and drove them out as fugitives, persecuting them. For the worthiness of this end attracted them, and the amnesty of the things that had happened, that they might fill the hell that was lacking in the torments. And thy people shall tempt a strange way, but they shall find death in a stranger. For all creation was again in the same general manner from above, obeying thy commandments, that thy children might be kept unharmed. The cloud that shaded the interference, and the dry spring of the earth from the pre-existing water was considered out of the Red Sea, an unhindered way, and a grassy field out of a violent storm, whereby the nations passed through those who were covered with thy hands, beholding marvelous wonders. For they were as horses, and as lambs they leaped forth, praising thee, O Lord, that saveth them. For those that were in their stake were also remembered, how, instead of the birth of living things, the earth brought forth sting, but instead of waters, the river dried up a multitude of frogs. And afterwards I also saw the birth of new fowls, when they were willingly promoted, and asked for dishes of pleasure. For an altar went up to them out of the sea into a consolation. And the punishments of sinners came not without the foretold evidence of the life of lightning. For they were justly afflicted by their own wickednesses, and for they committed a harsher misogyny. For those who were ignorant did not receive them present, but they were the benefactors of strangers. And not only that, but a certain bishopric of them, for they received strangers with a hateful. And when they had received with feasts those who had already partaken of them righteous sufferings, they suffered pains, and they were also struck by sight, as they were at the gates of the righteous. When they were clothed in darkness, every man sought the way of his own doors. For by themselves the elements, which are adapted as in a psalter, the notes of the euthmos, always reconcile the name, remaining with a sound, which is to be guessed from the very sight of the facts. For the land was changed into hydra, and it went on the earth. Fire prevailed in the water of its own power, and water of the quenching nature went forth. The flames of perishable beasts have not withered away the flesh of them that walk, nor the molten crystalline kind, the food of the ambrosia. For in all things, O Lord, thou hast magnified thy people, and glorified them, and hast not been exceeding, being present in all times and places. End of the Wisdom of Solomon. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. More ancient biblical text is uploaded weekly. This will eventually become a one-stop channel on all ancient text.